The House Judiciary Committee issued subpoenas last night to Microsoft, Meta, TikTok, Apple, Amazon, Rumble, X, and Alphabet to investigate foreign censorship of U.S. companies. Joining us now, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, Congressman of Ohio. And it's good to see you, Congressman. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you. You bet.
We never have to ask you to play along with our format at Squawk Box of no jacket. Maybe we got it from you, although we've been on for 30 years.
I don't know. I think I probably got it from you.
You might have.
Good to be with you.
I think. I didn't understand this initially. So it's not censorship in the foreign countries. It's foreign governments censoring these companies, or telling them they got to give you Americans censored information. How can they do that?
Well, their Digital Services Act says, and they use the term global spillover. So if it's actually resulting, they wanted you to take it down globally. In fact, it was officials in Australia said they want to stop it globally with their act. So what we did is we've sent the subpoenas to the companies saying, give us the communications between the EU and you, or the UK, or even Brazil, where they have asked you to take down stuff or threaten you or pressure you to take down stuff. And frankly, if they don't take down information, then it's sort of like a shakedown. Then they get fined under the Digital Services Act in the European Union, or the Online Safety Act in the UK. So this sort of goes like, remember, Mark Zuckerberg said, we need help from foreign censorship that impacts Americans. And so that's what we're trying to do, is first get the information. And then we're also going to follow it up with letters to the UK, to the EU, and to Brazil's Supreme Court, which has been the main culprit there, and say, hey, we want you to know that we've asked these companies for this information to see what you've been pressuring them to do. And hopefully we can help stop this. I mean, it's one thing if they want to do it in their country to their citizens. We think that's wrong. But when you're impacting the First Amendment liberties of Americans, that's a problem. And when you pressure companies to do that to Americans, and then if they don't, you're going to fine them, that's a problem as well.
So you're really not looking for wrongdoing at the companies. You're trying to figure out what happened with foreign governments. And I'll bet you how they pressured the Biden administration to go along with some of the stuff that they were doing. I'll bet you that's involved.
Yeah.
So, Congressman, we dodged the Ministry of Truth.
The same game.
Right. We dodged the Ministry of Truth. I mean, can you believe we were talking about that a couple of years ago, that individual that was going to run what we were allowed to see with the blessing of the Biden administration?
Disinformation Governance Board.
Right. We dodged that.
No, exactly.
So now we're getting it from the foreign governments with the help of the previous administration.
You've got it. Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do, and that was what was going on. Remember, last Congress, we got a letter from Mark Zuckerberg to the committee where he said, the Biden administration pressured us to censor. We did it. We're sorry. We won't do it again. And they've subsequently now changed policy and got rid of the fact checker and went to what we call the First Amendment. The best way to combat crazy speech, wrong speech, is more speech. That's the First Amendment. That's what the Supreme Court has always held, that the First Amendment and free speech is about. So we're trying to protect that right for Americans. I remember when RFK Jr. testified in front of our committee 2 years ago. He had a great line. He said, when you look at history, it is never the good guys who are for censorship. It is always the bad guys. And that is so true. So we want the First Amendment. We hope free speech happens everywhere, but we certainly want to protect the rights of Americans, and that's why we're asking for this information. And then following it up today with letters to the UK Prime Minister, with the EU, President of the EU, and the head of the Supreme Court in Brazil, saying, hey, here's what we sent to these companies. You need to be on notice that we're watching what you're doing. Because remember, last summer, it was the commissioner at the EU who threatened X, the day they were getting ready to interview President Trump. You got to be careful. People might get this information around the world. They were threatening him. They wanted him to censor that interview. So that is our concern.
And I would hate to be lulled into a false sense of security that we have the First Amendment in this country. When you remember Vice President Vance's reception in Germany, just to call out some of the things that are happening there, or even in the UK. I understand that we're the only place with the First Amendment. I mean, I've often thought some of these countries that have 11 different ruling coalitions, that we can lend them the Constitution, but up to this point, we have not done that. So they don't have First Amendment protections there, and we see what the worst case scenario is if you don't.
Yeah, they don't have the First Amendment like we do. God, thank the good Lord we have that here in our country. But one of the hallmarks of Western civilization is this ability to debate, to have free debate. And, you make your argument, I'll make our argument. Well, let's have the debate. And when you start to diminish that is scary. We had a witness. She was a Canadian journalist who covered the trucker strike up there. She's testified a couple times in front of our committee. And she talked about this. She says, one of the core values of Western civilization is free speech, free debate. And if you don't have that, the alternatives to settling disputes is scary. And we never want to get there, certainly in this country, but frankly in Western culture. So this is why it's so important. And we were so close a few years ago with where the Biden administration was taking us. Thank goodness we've stopped that. But we want to have an impact here and frankly help American companies. These guys are literally it's a shakedown if they don't follow this law that they know doesn't comply with the rights that we enjoy as Americans under the Constitution.
Okay, great. A lot of other things that we could have talked about, but I know that this was something it's recent and important, but hopefully we can have you back and just talk about the general fire hose of what's coming out of what you're doing down there.
Yeah.
Your head must spin on any given day, doesn't it?
Well, we're busy, but that's the job. You got to come here and fight for the things you told the American people you were going to do, and that's what we're trying to do. And certainly, you can't have censorship. You just can't have it. So we're trying to do everything we can to stop it and help great American companies.
Okay. All right, Chairman Jordan. Thank you.